Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into this fundamental force that basically decides life and death for every living thing out there. I'm talking everything from a single cell all the way up to a blue whale. And get this, it's a constant, totally invisible battle for balance, and it is happening inside you, right now.
I know, it sounds like the beginning of some weird joke, right? But the answer? Well, the answer gets at this universal challenge that every single living thing has to figure out if it wants to survive. And believe it or not, it all boils down to one simple but incredibly powerful process.
All right, let's get right into it. The heart of this whole thing, it's just about how water moves around. You can think of every living cell as basically a tiny little bag of water, and that water's filled with stuff. You've got salts, sugars, proteins, the whole deal. But here's the thing, the world outside that cell also has stuff dissolved in its water. And it's that interaction, between the inside and the outside, that's where all the action happens.
And this is the big one, the name of the game, osmosis. All it really means is that water is always trying to dilute things. It just naturally wants to move from a place where it's pretty pure, with not a lot of stuff dissolved in it, to a place that's, well, dirtier, with a lot more stuff dissolved in it. It's a super simple rule, but oh man, the consequences for life are absolutely massive.
So, you want to see this thing in action? Let's start with something that, well, it can't really defend itself, a peeled grape. It's kind of perfect because its cells are totally at the mercy of the raw physics of osmosis. It's going to show us exactly what's going on. So, picture this. We take a bunch of these peeled grapes and we drop them into different kinds of liquids. We're talking distilled water, regular tap water, even super sugary drinks. Then we just leave them for a day. The big question is, what's going to happen? Are they going to swell up, shrizzle, or just kind of stay the same? And wow, the results were super clear. I mean, look at this. In the plain old water, the grapes gained mass. They literally got heavier. But then you look at the sugary stuff, like the juice and the soda, they lost mass. They got lighter. So what in the world is going on here? Okay, so the grapes sitting in distilled water, that's what we call a hypotonic solution. It just means the water outside the grape was way purer than the sugary, concentrated stuff inside the grape cells. And since we know the rules of osmosis, what happens? Water rushes in, flooding those cells and making the whole grape swell up and gain weight. Simple as that. But in that super sugary grape soda, the exact opposite went down. That soda is a hypertonic solution. It was way more concentrated with sugar than the grape's insides. So this time, osmosis yanks the water out of the grape and into the soda. And what's the result? A shriveled up grape that lost weight. So there's a sweet spot, right? A point of balance. That's called an isotonic solution. It's when the concentration of all that stuff is pretty much the same on the inside and the outside of the cell. Yeah, water's still moving back and forth, but there's no big rush in either direction. For a living cell, this is basically the promised land. Perfect balance. Okay, so that's the basic physics. But what about actual biology? I mean, think about it. Unlike a grape, a real living animal can't just afford to blow up or shrink every time its environment changes, like moving from a river into the ocean. No way. And this is where life gets really clever. And that's the huge difference, right there. The grape, it's just a passive victim of physics. It has no choice. But an animal, like a crab, it's an active participant. It has to be. It's life or death. So this is where we leave simple physics behind and step into the world of active biology. Okay, now this is just fascinating. Check out this graph. It shows that as the water around a crab gets saltier and saltier, the crab does lose a little bit of water from its muscles. You can see that line dip down. But, and this is the amazing part, look how it levels off. It doesn't just keep losing water and shrivel up like the grape did. No, it actively fights back. And that fight has a name, osmoregulation. It's the active biological process of taking control of your body's internal water and salt balance. And here's the key. Unlike that passive grape, this takes energy, a lot of it. For that crab, it's a full-time life or death job. So let's go even smaller. What if you don't have claws and a shell? What if you're just one single cell, like this little paramecium, hanging out in a freshwater pond? You don't have organs, you're completely exposed. How on earth do you solve this massive, constant water problem? Well, for a paramecium in a pond, life is one long hypotonic crisis. The water inside it is way more concentrated, saltier, than the clean fresh water all around it. And that means water is just constantly, relentlessly trying to smash its way into the cell. Seriously, without some kind of defense, it would just pop. Game over. So, to deal with this constant threat, it evolved this incredible little piece of biological machinery. It's called the contractile vacuole. And the best way to think about it is like a tiny automatic sump pump for the cell. It's just an absolutely brilliant solution to what should be a fatal problem.
So how does this little engine even work? Well, it's a neat little cycle. First, water floods into the cell, right? Then this star-shaped vacuole thing starts collecting all that excess water. Once it's full, bam, it contracts, squeezing super tight and actively pumping the water right back outside. And it just keeps doing that over and over and over again for its entire life. Just amazing. So you see the pattern here? We went from a simple grape, which is just a prisoner of physics, to a complex crab that has to burn energy just to stay balanced, all the way down to a tiny paramecium with its own little built-in water pump. It's the exact same fundamental challenge, just met with totally different and amazing solutions.
Okay, so let's boil it all down. The bottom line is this. Osmosis is the constant pressure that's always there. Osmoregulation is life's active response. It's energetic, it's clever, and it's what separates the living from from the grape. And whether it's using big complex organs or these tiny little cellular pumps, life has just found an incredible number of ways to manage this force and, not just survive, but thrive.
And that really makes you think, doesn't it? If this constant, invisible war over water is being fought every single second inside every living thing, what other hidden battles are going on? I mean, battles for balance against heat and cold, against gravity, even against chaos itself. All these fights being waged just to keep this beautiful and frankly improbable thing we call life going.